Okay, here's another quick rundown on how to pull the main engine harness. Now, keep in mind, that harness is separate from like the headlight harness. That's going to go from that corner behind the radiator support and bumper to here where it connects the fender into the cabin. But this is for the main engine harness that'll run from the AC compressor, injectors, all that stuff, all the way back to the interior and back to the fuel pump, which is now a good time to point out. You will have to get to everything here. I'll show you this in more detail. But so you're gonna have to pull interior, like rear seats, front seats, carpet, the center console to get to all that. But let's start at the engine bay. So you want to unplug everything as though you're going to pull an engine. So all this down here, cam, crank sensor, ignition, obviously, injectors, knock sensor, VTCS. Come on this side, unplug, idle air control, throttle body, this evap solenoid, throttle position sensor, EGR, don't forget that guy way down here. And then I usually unbolt the engine hoist bracket and just take this whole common ground with me. It's going to depend on your replacement harness, you know, what you have to swap back and forth. You're going to unplug the coolant temp sensor. This guy goes here. Another grounding point. I just removed the 12mm bolt here. And in this case, this is a auto trans car, so I unplugged the range sensor and the shift connector. If it's a manual trans car, you'll have like one black connector that goes to the diff or the reverse, and then one at the front. You can also disconnect your O2 sensors. And this is how I do it. Generally, so if you look at this, this is going to be that main harness we're trying to pull, and this one is like your power that goes to your alternator starter. And so I'm just going to pull this one, and to do so, in my case, this is an ABS car, so I disconnected the ABS connectors. There's this zip tie thing holding the harness. Up here, you need to disconnect this common ground, because in my case, I'm not going to use this, right? I'm not going to remove this, so I've unbolted that. Remove the 10mm here for the common ground. Goodbye. And then there's this plastic retainer connected to the AC line. So that should free up this diagnostic port and common ground. Come over here. We're following this harness. It comes up to here, another grounding point, and it goes to the fuse box, the engine bay fuse box. Remove a 10mm here, here, and here. Lift this thing up. Disconnect whatever the harness is connected to. So that's this guy and this white connector. To do that, you pull this out. Here. Like so, pull that all the way out. Like that. Press on the back side. So now that should free up this side of the harness. Then you want to get it off the bracket here. There's a few of these points where you just lift this up, this little center tab up, and it comes off that bracket. There's also another clip here that's holding the harness to the bracket. Come in there with a trim tool, pull it up. It'll probably break. You know, this stuff's 20 years old at this point. So that should free up most of the stuff in the engine bay. Next, we'll go into the interior. Like I said, pull carpet to get to all this stuff. because I'll show you where this penetration goes. Now, I've pulled the dash on this car. You don't necessarily have to pull the dash. I've done so because I swapped the main harness for the body side for various reasons. There was like an aftermarket alarm. I wanted the spare tire sub, and I'm converting this car from regular auto to sport shift. But if you look under the dash, you have to take off the ECU plate, which is going to be 4 nuts, and then take off the plate and the ECU. I usually remove a bracket. And this is where the penetration is on the firewall side for the that harness we're trying to remove. So when I come in here, disconnect this, it'll probably be tucked under the center console. So you want to undo this guy. There's also another white connector here. This is, I don't know, follow some of this stuff. Like I said, I'm real deep into harness swap, so I still have a bunch of this stuff disconnected. But you want this one for sure, this guy, and then follow this. It goes under here and comes around the side. And this, like I said, this is an auto trans car, so it's going to be slightly different for the manual trans car, but it's the same idea. This harness will come around, disconnect the parking brake, use that trim tool to take off this stuff, or what I sometimes do is I'll slide out the harness from the orange tape, because these things will just snap typically. Then follow along, keep going down here, and I should have removed this panel, but it's going to be 4 Phillips screws and then 1 big connector, and then you have to separate the grommet from the metal plate. Yeah, so the harness swap is overall not too bad. Once you've done it a couple times, it's not as daunting as it seems, but it is pretty involved. I mean, if you're gonna change that harness, you might have better luck pulling the engine, because the final step is pulling the main harness through the firewall, which is buried back here. Okay, you can see that. That's the other side of the penetration we're looking at. And you have to get it off the firewall here. And then this is the, this is the bane of the existence when you're doing the rear motor mount. But you can take off tabs to open that plastic box, and the harness will come out. I think there might be a zip tie on it, but once you get that all disconnected, you can pull the whole harness out that way and repeat the process to put your new harness in. So it's a lot of work, but it's pretty simple. It just takes time. I hope this is helpful, give you some insight on pulling the main harness. Good luck.